to another episode of the Promoted Podcast. I'm your host, Felicity Fury, CEO of We Aspire. If you haven't heard of We Aspire, we are creating the most effective first-time leader program for people in construction and infrastructure. And I'm super pumped to be here again with the incredible Renee Wooten, aerospace engineer, commercial pilot, and speaker. Renee, you are dialing in from all the way on the other side of the world. Where are you and why are you there? That's what we're going to dive into today.
Amazing. Hello, Felicity. So good to see you today. I am calling in from Pasadena, Los Angeles, California, west coast of North America. It is and has been heat wave weather over here, roughly 40 to 45 degrees, but it's dry. It's a really hot heat. We are in the desert. That's where I am.
So good. And you've got some top secret stuff in your desk, which we're not allowed to talk about, but there is some things you can reveal. You are doing an internship at NASA. What the heck? How did you get an internship at NASA?
Amazing. I am at NASA. For anyone watching on YouTube, I've got my JPL notebook here. I've got my LanzaJet notepad for work with my new NASA stickers on it. Very cool, very cool. All of the swag, as they call it these days, the government issued branding. So I actually applied for the NASA program, I think for the first time in 2022. So years ago, I was finishing my pilot's license and I was kind of thinking about, right, I've done my pilot's license, I'm an engineer, and, you know, I don't want to just be a commercial pilot. And when I say just, I don't want to just commit my career to one kind of job for the rest of my life. And the reason I say that is because I kind of learned about myself early on in my career that monotony or routine in a job, I find too unstimulating. I get bored very quickly. And so the idea of doing a job where there's so much routine, you're not thinking outside of the box as such, you're really following process and procedure and, you're looking after multi-million-dollar machinery, right? There has to be governance around that. There has to be a protocol that you follow. So for me, I kind of came to the realization, I love aircraft. I love understanding aircraft. I love everything about aircraft, but I can't imagine myself flying for the rest of my life. And you really find the incentives as well as a commercial pilot later in your career. You know, you get the privileges of picking maybe a fleet type or getting promoted into flying roles. And by that, I mean you kind of transitioning from the back seat to the front seat to then captain. There's a lot of process and procedure and seniority that comes into play when you're thinking about a career in flying. So with all of that in mind, and then all of my experience as an engineer, solving problems, working on technical pieces, again, using systems engineering, process and policy to kind of navigate big projects. And then, in the last maybe 4 to 5 years, I've built a lot of strategic experience. And so with that strategic experience, I've really loved like sitting at the decision-making table. I've loved building a business through a framework and thinking about data and teams and skills and, the commercial viability of a business. And I kind of had a sit down one day in my chair and I was like, I really love flying. I really love engineering and I really love strategy. So like, what's a possible job where I could bring all of these things together? And in my mind at that time, based on what I knew, I came to the conclusion that it was an astronaut. So thinking then through, all right, what's available in Australia to become an astronaut? And I started speaking to people. I joined the Superstars of STEM program. Shout out to Science and Technology Australia for that incredible program. And I met some other amazing women in STEM through that program that were working in Australia's space industry. So immediately I started connecting with them and asking about where are the careers, what are the opportunities, what does it look like? And more and more, I just started telling people, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be an astronaut. And what that actually did is whilst I have to say, I probably didn't believe that it's possible for me. I think it's a 1 in a million chance that I might ever get to live out that dream. The more people you tell what you want to do, the more opportunities come your way because people think of you when they think of, if astronaut or space or anything to do with those kind of realms come across people's desks, they think about you if you've kind of self-promoted a bit in that regard. So anyway, I had someone call me one day and they were like, hey, I know this guy, Chris, and he is about to run a program to get university students over to JPL. So he said, you need to call Chris and have a conversation with him and find out more about the program. And when I called Chris, he was fantastic. He was like, yes, we want people like you who apply for our program. It's not up and running yet, but in a couple of years, like, we're expecting to formally send our first kind of 5 interns over to JPL. So I think that conversation took place around 2020, 2021. I can't really remember, but by 2023 it was last year, the first cohort finally went. So this has been in the pipeline for a couple of years now, like 3 years roughly. Eventually when I found out that the program was running, so it's actually the last couple of years, it's an Indigenous program. So it's run by Chris Lawrence, who is a professor at Monash University. He's an Indigenous man from Noongar country over in Western Australia. And through his relationships with America and JPL, he was able to build the first ever National Indigenous Space Academy in Australia, which is crazy. It's wild to me. Keep your eyes peeled for what's to come in the years to come as well. For anyone that is interested in having the same experience, keep your eye on NISA, but also Monash University. I applied, I think, end of 2022 formally. I was actually accepted last year into the program. So I came along to the media release and I came down to Monash University with 5 other students. I was supposed to be funded by another party, which didn't really end up working out. But then I waited till this year and kind of came with the 5 sponsored students that kind of get sent over as part of the cohort each year. So, I am now at JPL. I've been at JPL for 5 weeks interning. I'm an aerospace engineering graduate, so I'm working on an aerospace project over here. It has been phenomenal to get behind the scenes, right? Like, when you see a brand like NASA, you're just like, what? NASA? You're joking me? So to come over and meet the people that are like sending, the science, the engineering, the missions to space, to Mars, to the moon and beyond, it's pretty phenomenal. We've, in the time that we've been interning, we have had tours through the Mars yard, through mission control, through the space assembly facility, all of these incredible pieces of infrastructure and technology and data coming together and just understanding, how are they testing the equipment that they're building, what's the protocols to send spacecraft to space, and on a day-to-day basis, how do people find reward and recognition in their work? I think that's been actually quite an insightful part of the learning around, what does it take to become a JPL employee? What does a day in the life look like? And how do they get kicks out of their work? Because if you can imagine, people build, innovate, do research and development for years before they build a concept that's, deemed needed to go to space. Some of these projects go all the way to Congress, right, for approval, and they cost millions upon billions of dollars to really make it into space. So some of these projects take decades to build, take, maybe a decade to test and to finesse, and then a decade to reach their final destination in some cases. So you need to have like a 20 to 30 year career here to see some of your pieces actually make it to space, which is just wild to me. So for me, it was really interesting to say then, how did these people find enjoyment in their day-to-day life? And what I mean by that is, if you're waiting for that end milestone to achieve that goal of getting to space, you're not going to wait for that for 20 to 30 years, right? So like, how do you find enjoyment in the day-to-day? And it's been really interesting to have those conversations and see how people work and what they find enjoyment out of.
So cool. And for those playing along at home, JPL stands for Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Is that right, Renee? Should I get that right? Or
You
yes?
nailed it. Sorry, that's my mistake.
Amazing.
Acronyms over here. Yes, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Awesome. And I love that's such an interesting insight because I remember years ago, one of my mentors talked about getting women into engineering. And he goes, if we treated this, this as a pipeline problem like we do with, say, building a submarine, he said building submarines can take decades. We'd think about things differently. It's funny because we've just come off the back of recording a podcast episode around moving around quickly. So this is like the total opposite. I'd love to know how stay motivated and how do they get enjoyment, because I feel like sometimes it's similar. Building a business is like, for me, I'm like, we aspire, this is at least a 10-year journey. We're 4 years into a 10-year journey. It's like the road is long. We are definitely in marathon season, and there's lots of things I do every day to stay motivated and keeping things real. So how do they do it when it's like decades upon decades? Like, I can't even imagine. How do they stay motivated in that situation?
So I think the way that the scientists and engineers find reward and recognition and are motivated in their everyday life is, first of all, it's JPL. It's NASA. The missions that they're running here are literally out of this world. You cannot really go anywhere else to any other company in the world that, sends things to space. Maybe SpaceX is a direct competitor from a rocket's propulsion perspective, but they're more of an enabler and a partner now for NASA. But your options are really limited if space and astrophysics and, life on Mars, if they're the things that really are your passion project, they capture your imagination, your enthusiasm for what you want to discover in life, then unfortunately you can't really go anywhere else. So there's that element. But I think as well, it does feel very much like I'm at a university at JPL. So yes, it's a government agency. It's still an organization, but it operates very similar to a university in that you've got a lot of postdocs and a lot of PhDs and scientists and engineers that have been working on these things. And there is so much autonomy in what they get to innovate. So a lot of that these days has to do with climate change and water management and a lot of other agricultural, food kind of science related categories. And so when you're innovating, you kind of want to make sure that any proposals or concepts that you're coming up with align with these decadal survey priorities, because then you are more likely to be progressed through what they call the technology readiness levels. And there are 9 levels that take you from a concept and an idea through to launch as payload up to space. So I think the thing that really motivates people here is the autonomy to build wildly innovative ideas and then see them progress. They build them from scratch. They've got budgets and teams around them that have incredibly diverse skill sets. So a lot of what they do here is built in-house as well. I think that you've got true engineering and science meeting, and if you are somebody that loves that wholeheartedly and that's how you want to spend your career, then this is the place for you.
So good. I love this so much. Like, total nerd out moment. I remember going to the US and the Smithsonian, and you can touch the rock from the moon, and there's all this aviation stuff. I feel like in another life I could, go. Like, I should have done aerospace, Renee. They didn't offer it at QUT at the time. So actually, maybe they did. See, this is how unaware I was of it. I was like, civil engineering is the easier one. So I'm going to go down the easier path. But someone actually, I was speaking at Brisbane Airport Corporation on Thursday this week, and one of the host was saying, for all the aerosexual fans here, we're at the hotel at the airport, in the middle of the airport. It's 360-degree views. You literally see the planes landing because you're right next to the runway. And I'd never heard that term before. And I was actually wearing a necklace, my favorite necklace, which has got an airplane on it. And I was like, I think I'm one of them. And I'd never heard that word before, Renee. Have you come across?
I have many times. Yeah. Aerosexual, yeah.
Who came up with that name? I'm claiming it. I am one of them. That is so freaking cool that you are at NASA and getting this opportunity, and amazing to hear your insights and what you're getting out of it. What are you going to do with this next? I mean, it's huge that you're there, that you're getting this experience. I love that you were saying how when you have this idea of a vision, sharing it with people, it's like a magnet. People, and it's amazing that when you said that, because I do that with you. When people go space industry, aviation, I'm like, well, you've got to talk to Renee. She is your gal for all this stuff. And it's so easy to connect you because I know that's your vision and that's your goal. What are you going to do with this opportunity next? How is it going to shape, your ambitions and your aspirations in space?
Yeah, I love that. Such a good question. I think a couple of things, coming over here, a lot of what they say when you do an internship here is it'll either be for you or it won't. And it's so positive. It's such a positive outcome, regardless of which direction you take. So for me, a couple of things. I think that even though this program exists today, the space industry in Australia still isn't huge, right? We are quite immature in comparison to the US, and we have a long way to go. But what I would love to do is be a part of the space community in Australia now and use the experience, the networks, the knowledge that I've built in the time that I've been here to continue to influence government, to continue to support the Australian Space Agency to start doing more so that we can build an incredible space agency and opportunities for us. And, Australia is quite unique in that, we built off the back of kind of our minerals and our mining industry and our agricultural industry in Australia. And there's some incredible opportunities for whether it's remote operations or, autonomous vehicles in the mining world that we could use in space as space applications or use our knowledge in those industries to actually support space missions that are happening over in the US. So there's a lot of ways that we can partner and kind of build on where we are today and where we want to go. So I'm excited to be a part of that conversation. I think that's really the most immediate opportunity I see. For me, I really want to finish my master's. And once I finish my master's, I'm now eligible or will be eligible to apply for astronaut program. So whilst I don't necessarily...
Just casually. He was like, and then I'll be eligible. Hang on a second.
Be eligible to apply to be an astronaut candidate. So.
That's amazing. I didn't want to step over that. That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to believe. So I think I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I absolutely love what I'm doing with LanzaJet in decarbonising the aviation industry. And to me, that is going a significant way in contributing to the impact aviation is having on climate change. I am planning to become a global aerospace leader. I mean, I'm working towards it already. I love aerospace. I love solving huge problems that affect all of humanity. And I do think that as long as I'm doing that, I'm really, really satisfied. So I don't know what the next steps look like as such, but I think this is only helping me reach that level of being a global aerospace leader that understands the complexity of policy, government, industry, and how all of these kind of aspects of business and innovation and progress as an economy, as a nation, intersect to really evolve opportunities. So for me, it's how do I kind of leverage my knowledge and my experience to keep helping others and continue to build on that, because Australia has huge opportunity. I love our country so much. I want us to be a global leader in aerospace, in space, in aviation, in climate change science, whatever it is. So for me, it's just to keep having these conversations and keep contributing to projects that help us lead at that level.
So cool. I feel like you've got this puzzle and you've got all these pieces and you're like, I know this piece makes sense and I've got to work on this one. I've already got this one sorted, and you almost don't know what the picture is yet, but that's okay because it's almost like no one knows what that picture of the future of this industry looks like. And you're playing your part, you're playing a role, you're having the conversations. And I think that makes such a difference when you've got that open mind, because then you don't have to, there's no, fixed way it has to look. And I think often as an engineer, I go, okay, we're building the road. Okay, that's what we're doing. And then if you get so fixed on what the end outcome is, then it can be hard to see new opportunities and new pathways. So it sounds like you've got a really open mind, which I think, is so critical when you're working on something big and visionary like you are.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I also look back on my career and I could not have imagined the steps I would have taken and where that could have led. And I have to say, I think this year has been the best year of my life. And the reason I say that is because I'm running this podcast with you and it's a dream, but there has just been this kind of, moment where my maturity, my life experience, my boundaries, my mindset, my work experience and my education and training have all led to phenomenal opportunities. And that's come through in different ways, right? It's, having the opportunity to study at the University of Sydney and do my master's. It's finding out that when I enrolled at the University of Sydney, my professor was the professor of Catherine Bennell-Pegg, which I only found out after I got in. Catherine Bennell-Pegg is our first ever Australian astronaut that just finished training at ESA in Europe. It's, seeing the NASA JPL opportunity come to life. It's landing my dream job at LanzaJet, contributing to decarbonizing aviation. It's finding and getting engaged to and planning a wedding with the man of my dreams. And it's like, this took, when did I start this journey? Like, let's say from 15 when I found aviation to 31, working my butt off for over a decade and consistently, building knowledge awareness on how I want to operate, where I want to operate, who I want to operate with, just building the life of my dreams. And this did not happen, over a short period. It was, many years of hard decisions and hard moments and tears and friendship losses and, relationship breakdowns and jobs that I took that I probably shouldn't have. And, all of these things that slowly have helped me build the life of my dreams. And it's hard to believe, to be honest. And the reason I want to share all of that is because, it can be so easy to look at you and I and go, they're where I want to be, or I wish that I could get to where they were. But actually, everybody has the capacity to achieve what we've achieved. And by sharing that, it wasn't always easy, and it's been consistency and turning up even when things are hard, but always working on things that I was always passionate about has just helped me build a beautiful life. So, yes, I'm at NASA JPL, and who knows what the future holds, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing with people like you, Felicity, in my life, and our beautiful listeners. And yeah, I just think I can't wait to keep building and advancing the aerospace industry. That's like, whilst, astronaut might be my future, anything that is kind of contributing to a better world for me is like exactly where I want to be. So, yeah.
So good. I love this so much. And great to hear that the journey as well, even you sharing earlier that you started the conversation in, 2020 around, space, astronaut, and it's taken this time to get there. And I think that's often something where, that whole overnight success is not real. It's 10, 20 years in the making. And yeah, it does take time. So huge congratulations. I can't wait to have a conversation in a year's time to see where this has taken you and do another check-in on your career, Renee. Super, super inspiring. Thank you for inspiring me every single day. I know you're inspiring our listeners as well. I think that's a wrap on another episode of the Promoted Podcast. I'll see you in the next one, Renee.
Thanks for another epic episode, Felicity. See you soon.